So this week you did mention the video courses, and this week we kind of have the I guess the diva of Excel courses here with us, but not only Excel courses. Being an Excel MVP, she does quite a few Excel courses, but certainly does courses in just about every Office product that's out there. And as people talk about you, Mynda, you built quite a bit of what feels like an Excel training empire over the recent years, and there's a lot of curiosity around how you've done that. And talking with Jordan as he came back from the Excel MVP Summit. Or the MVP Summit, and as the Excel people got together over beverages, it seemed that there was a lot of conversation around training. Like you kind of held court there. So could we just start off by maybe just talking about your catalog of training, and then maybe we can dive into how you've gone about creating that?
Yeah, sure. So we started because I really wanted to help people in small businesses, which is who we were working with at the time, get to know more about the programs they had at their fingertips. And so we felt the video courses were the best way because, in a small business, you can't just leave. The receptionist just can't leave for the day and go on a training course. So we felt that the video course was a good fit for those type of workers. But, they're a good fit for everyone these days. They're really popular. And we started off, Excel was my thing, so I focused on Excel. But we realized that Word and Outlook were really critical as well to those roles. So we got someone else to do the courses for the other topics, but my passion was Excel, so I really wanted to sort of promote that and extend not just a regular course, but get into more detail, and so I did a dashboard course, and reporting was my thing back when I had a real job, and so dashboards was a natural kind of topic, but dashboards is a great topic because it spans so many different parts of Excel and your job. You could do the dashboard course and it could be used, or different parts of that could be used in just your day-to-day Excel work. So it was a really good topic from that point of view as well. But I started out and I'd never done any training, other than, when you do a job handover and you talk for 3 days non-stop and you teach someone how to do what you do. That was the only training I'd ever done before. And I started writing blog posts, trying to just build an audience and find my Excel voice and my technique and an approach to sharing what I knew, and I just sort of started, and I think that's the biggest thing. You just got to start. People give you feedback, and they'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. And I can remember the first time I recorded a video course, I could feel myself blushing. Like I was so shy. I didn't ever like standing up and doing presentations or anything like that. So even hidden behind my PC with a microphone, I was really nervous, and you get used to it and you get better. And I found that if I wrote a script or at least an outline, then I had something to follow, and make sure it's really short. People don't have a lot of time, and I know myself, I don't have a big attention span. I'm not going to watch a 10-minute video. You're going to lose me after 10 minutes. So, I try and aim for 5. Some topics you can't do in 5, but, try and keep it short. Think about all the things that you struggle with when you're learning that particular subject, if you can remember, and try and break it down in a way that you understand. That's just how I do it. When I teach a formula, I talk about the English translation of that formula, and I color code it. I don't teach the syntax. I say, VLOOKUP this value in this column or this range and return this column, and that's how I teach. So people seem to respond well to that, but you've got to find your voice and just try it, just go with it. And I found with the blogging, it gave me an opportunity to sort of learn myself as well. I didn't start out knowing everything I know now, and I'm still learning all the time. That's one of the great things about Excel. So there's endless topics, endless niches almost, it seems. And you just got to get started.
So I know that you have several different levels of Excel courses. So you have like a beginners and you have a more advanced one. Can you talk about how you categorize certain things, like what was for beginners and what was for advanced? Because when I deal with training, that was one of the things I first learned when I started training, was that in some people's minds, some things that are advanced are not always advanced, and some things that are beginner are sort of taken for granted. So how did you think about that?
Yeah, I tried to really that was something I struggled with as well, because people have this preconceived idea of how good their Excel skills are because they just don't know what they don't know. So I started with my syllabus, and I tried to sort of say, well, the beginner topics are the things, they're the minimum standard. They're the things you just have to know. Everyone should know them. And then I looked at the sort of the next level up. I suppose I just related it back to my job. So when I had a job, I thought my Excel skills were pretty good. So really that was intermediate stuff. And now, since I've been blogging and really stretching my knowledge, and people asking me questions has sort of forced me to say, oh, okay, now I get what advanced is. And so, you know, I guess it's a way of you helping people understand what level they are as well. So it's like a bell curve. Some things have got to be beginner, most things are in the middle, and then there's the sort of outliers of the advanced stuff, you know, macros and VBA and more complex nested formulas and that kind of thing. But, you know, it's opinion. There's no, you know, Microsoft don't say, here's an advanced Excel course. It's just what you think. But,
so there's a few things I'd like to question you about. I've almost headed down this path so many times. And, you know, certainly there's a lot of knowledge in Sylvia's head and Jordan's head. You know, they've done a lot of training, a lot of webinars, a lot of, you know, presentations, etc. And almost everybody who comes on the show has just a wealth of knowledge in their head, but not a lot of people have turned that into something that they can monetize in training, and something that they kind of create once, and it kind of has a shelf life that goes on for quite some time. You mentioned a few things around content, right? I heard number one, create an outline. I heard number two, no 10-minute videos, try to keep them 5 minutes or less, try to keep the attention span. And number three, kind of focus on things that you struggle with. But as you were sitting down the first time, and you were going to start recording the first bit of videos, and Jordan and I have kind of played with this before, where we said, okay, well, let's just start recording some stuff. let's take some webinars and let's just start recording our stuff. And you see, that's still on the shelf, right? So if the audience here for this video are people who are looking to take the knowledge and to actually put it into something, what sort of steps would you say that they take to start getting that inertia and start getting started? And next I want to get to kind of the technology that you've done, but regardless of the technology, how did you kind of get started?
I guess it's no different really to standing up in front of a class and teaching a topic. So you've got to decide on your starting point. Sometimes that will be a blank canvas, it'll just be a blank worksheet. Sometimes it will be, here's my data and I'm going to teach you how to create a pivot table, but you have to start in baby steps. So I suppose it's something I find really difficult to answer, actually, because I don't really think about it. I just go, okay, I want to teach someone how to do this. And it might be that as I start writing it, I realize I need to take a step back and do a video before that, and then I can teach the topic I really want to teach. And you have to assume a certain level of knowledge if you're doing a course that's not just called Excel. You know, if you're doing an Excel course and you start, this is a spreadsheet, this is a cell, this is a row, this is a column. But if you're not doing that kind of course, then you have to say, right, I'm starting at this point, and that's what I do with my dashboard course. I say, I'm assuming you know this stuff. You know how to insert a chart. They're not that hard. I'm going to teach you how to create a chart that's not in the insert chart menu. I'm going to teach you what chart to use for the data that you've got, that kind of thing. But, you know, it's not a lot different to writing a blog post. You know, how do you write a blog post? You come up with a topic, you think about where you're going to start at, what level of knowledge you're going to assume people have, and then you start writing. And the only difference with a video is that you're actually demonstrating that. So it's like sitting down with someone beside you and saying, this is how you insert a pivot table. How would you do that? You just write it out and then you record a video, and that's sort of how I approach it, I suppose, as though I'm teaching someone beside me.
So let's talk about design principles then. So you mentioned one thing, which is no video, is try to keep the videos to 5 minutes. I kind of consider that kind of, you know, tactical design principles that you would go through in figuring out what a course is going to be like. Do you also, within your outline, say, okay, I'm going to target 20 videos, or how do you kind of figure out kind of your structure? Is there kind of are there 5 main topics and then 10 subtopics, or how do you kind of figure out as you're structuring
Yeah.
that's what that looks like?
That's a good question, because with the dashboard course, that was quite tricky. I kind of had a brain dump of what things I needed to cover. You know, I need to start with design principles, and then I'm going to teach people just a load of different charts, because you know, if I can give you a broad skill set, then you can apply that to lots of different scenarios. And then I looked at, okay, now we've got all those nice charts, how do we kind of automate or interact with those charts? So what interactive elements can I then connect to them? And then, you know, later on I talk about analyzing the data and how you get that data for those charts. And really I could have put that at the beginning, but I didn't, and now it's there, so it's just there. But I don't think it really matters. And then it's not to the very end of my dashboard course I go, okay, well, now actually you already know how to build a dashboard, because all you need to do is put all those bits into one sheet, and I tell them how to structure their file and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's a difficult thing. I don't ever start out and say I'm going to have 20 videos, it's going to be a 3-hour course, and you know, these are the topics. It evolves over the course of creating it. And I'm try and be quite flexible in how I go about building it, so I don't create a nightmare for myself if I need to change anything. But yeah, that is difficult, coming up with the outline. And I know I spoke to a few people at the summit who I've said to them, you know, if you can do a VBA course, I can market it to my members. You know, I'm not going to do VBA, do a VBA course. And they go, yeah, well, we're just struggling with the outline. Okay.
I have a question.
So
I want to
challenge.
kick it over to Sylvia after this real quick, but just to kind of jump in on that, you talked about it kind of evolves over time, but within each video you do, just as an example, are there certain design principles there where there's like a beginning of, hey, here's where we picked up from last time, now here's the lesson, and now here's a workbook that goes with it? Or are there certain things that you've kind of learned that have been successful for you in your structure of creating, we'll say, even each module? Or each video.
I try not to repeat myself too much, so I don't go, this is what we learned last time and that kind of thing. But at the with every video there is a workbook, an Excel workbook, and I have notes in there so that people can refer to those notes. They don't have to watch my video again. They can just, notes are fairly comprehensive that they can follow along from the notes. And the other thing I've done that I think is really important is that I support my members. So, you know, I know that you can't just, a lot of the time, you can't just watch my video and then go to your data and it's just going to work first time, because your data might be different. You might want to do something slightly different. So I spend a lot of time supporting people when they come to actually implement the techniques into their own work. And that, I get a lot of feedback about that being really important. So it's the best of both worlds, because, you know, you do a classroom-based course, and unless you're furiously taking notes or they give you really comprehensive handouts, when you get back to the real world and a month later, because you haven't had time to do anything on it because you're still catching up from the day you've just spent at the training, that you actually come to implement it, then you get stuck and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I'm there to help them. And they email me their files and photographs of the monitor sometimes, or their whiteboard. I had 2 of those last week. So that's been really, really important. And that also helps me to sort of reduce the, or to concentrate my workload. So I'll say I only open my dashboard course 4 times a year, so that I'm really busy 4 times a year for 6 to 8 weeks, and then for the rest of the year I have a bit more spare time. But yeah, I help people all the time, but I try and pigeonhole it into 4 periods of intensive work.
Sylvia?
Yeah, so I'm curious, you mentioned at the beginning that you started this course with small businesses in mind. Has that, and I know that, you know, you start with one idea and it can sort of evolve into something else, so is that still the kind of strategic focus, or has it just expanded beyond that, and did it expand organically, or was it part of your strategy in terms of who your real audience is?
Our audience, yeah, I think I couldn't envisage how it would have turned out. At the time, I thought these people in small business have a need, but actually with the internet, our audience is everyone from NASDAQ companies to governments all around the world to individuals. You know, I think actually the majority of our customers are people paying for their own training, employees in big companies who won't support them, who see the value in improving their own skills, because you know, the doors will open when they have those skills. And I get emails frequently from people who said, this is my job progression. One guy emailed me, said, I started on 50 grand, I took your dashboard course, 3 months later I presented a dashboard to the board as some sort of self-promotion, and now I'm on 70 grand, and I've just got a new job, and now I'm on 90 grand. And
wow.
You know, it's obviously not going to happen for everyone, but that's the potential if you can get these really amazing Excel skills and put them in front of the right people, then doors will open. So a lot of people pay themselves.
Yeah, just one more. I'm curious, how much of the content how much of that inspiration is coming from your existing audience, or do you kind of, you obviously have some ideas on your own, but then I'm just wondering how much of the content is inspired by maybe questions that you get from your students or whatever.
Yeah, most of it is because I don't have a job anymore. I'm not doing that stuff. I'm not asked to do this stuff for me or for my boss. So yeah, most of the things I get asked and that I create are as a result of questions that I've had. And that's where most of my learning has come from as well. Often I say I'm really good at Google because, you know, someone will ask me a question, I'm like, gee, I don't know. And particularly in the early days when I thought my Excel skills were really good, and actually there were these questions coming in and I'm going, I have no idea. But I could figure it out, and I knew enough, and I think I had that sort of tenacity to go and crack the code and work it out for myself, and then that would become a blog topic, or it might be something I put in my course. So yeah, definitely inspired by our members.
So let's jump in with the technology a little bit. This question comes from a fellow blogger, Patricia McCarthy, over at Excel-Diva, excel-diva.com. It's the Excel Diva, and her question is more around technology, and we're going to dive into that a bit. What program do you use to run your webinars?
Okay, it's called easywebinar.com. It's not the best. Actually, we're looking at changing it. It's pretty good, but we have some issues with it that we would like not to be there. But for the most part, it's been really good. And you know, for most people, it's fine. But we have every webinar we do, we have a series of the same questions that are a bit frustrating. So. Yeah, it's not bad for the price.
And what do you use for, so someone has created, we'll say they created their videos, and I'm assuming from previous conversations I've had with you that you're still using Camtasia, you know, those sorts of things to actually create the videos. So you have these videos now, and you're getting ready to kind of create your delivery mechanism. What technology do you use for that?
For hosting and...
Yeah, is that WordPress, a WordPress plugin, or is there some additional program?
It's pretty complicated. Thankfully, my husband does all that. But we use Wishlist Member to protect the content. We have a WordPress website, so Wishlist Member is just a plugin. We host the videos on Amazon S3, so they're in the cloud, and that helps with delivery for wherever you are. Hopefully, it's pretty good. And then we integrate that with PayPal for our payment system. We use WooCommerce as our shopping cart, which is another WordPress plugin. And we use MailChimp for our email. So everything in the background is integrated. When someone buys a course, PayPal then talks to Wishlist and MailChimp, and people get set up and automatically. So yeah, that's kind of the back end. I know there are newer plugins that you can use nowadays. LearnDash is one. That's a WordPress plugin that you can use to create course outlines and to create your syllabus to allow people to go and play the videos and that kind of thing. So that might be something for those interested. They could look at LearnDash. But there are loads of WordPress LMSs, so you could also Google that.